नमस्कार दोस्तों, हर संडे की तरह आज भी आपके साथ जुड़ चुका हूँ। हर बार मैं कुछ ना कुछ नया आपको देने की कोशिश करता हूँ। मेरी चाहत यही है कि अर्बन कोऑपरेटिव सेक्टर जो है वो अच्छा बढ़े, अच्छी तरह से बढ़े और रेगुलेटरी कंप्लाइंट हो। दोस्तों, मैं आज बात करने वाला हूँ एक चीज़ के ऊपर जिस पर बहुत सारे अर्बन कोऑपरेटिव बैंकों के जो लोग हैं या डायरेक्टर्स हैं या सीईओज़ हैं, वो इस तरह की बातें करते हैं कि ये जो रिज़र्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया है वो अर्बन कोऑपरेटिव बैंकिंग सेक्टर को ख़त्म करने की कोशिश कर रहा है। वेदर द रिज़र्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया इज़ ट्राइंग टू किल द अर्बन कोऑपरेटिव बैंकिंग सेक्टर, and then they keep on chatting and discussing and talking on several points and issues where they find that all these measures are virtually draconian and the urban cooperative banking sector cannot survive. Is Reserve Bank of India really killing? I believe not. I believe not, for the simple reason. The answer to this particular question is based on the perception that you carry about the entire banking industry as well as the regulation. Secondly, why do I say perception? It's principally because what kind of situation you are in. If you are in a very critical situation, when I say you means your bank, when it is in a critical situation, I find that these thoughts do come to our mind. रिजर्व बैंक सुनता नहीं है और हम जो भी कुछ कम्युनिकेशन देते हैं उसके ऊपर बार बार वो कुछ ना कुछ कहने की कोशिश करता है। वो हमारे फेवर में बातें होती नहीं है। तो जब भी हमारे फेवर में बातें नहीं होती है तो हम ये सोचते हैं कि ये जो रिज़र्व बैंक वाले लोग हैं, दे आर आउट टू किल द सेक्टर। Let me tell you, apart from misconceived ideas about Reserve Bank of India, these thoughts do occur in the mind of the urban cooperative bankers at various occasions, at various times. Every time there is one regulatory guideline, the entire sector keeps on discussing कि ये गाइडलाइन क्या है, इससे तो बैंक मर जाएंगी, इससे तो बैंक ये हो जाएगा। All such kind of thoughts are virtually agog entire sector. तो मैंने सोचा यार ये जो सब्जेक्ट है, इज़ रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया आउट टू किल द अर्बन कोऑपरेटिव बैंकिंग सेक्टर, इसके ऊपर कुछ मैं विचार आपके सामने रखूं जो आप सोच के आप उसके ऊपर अपना ओपिनियन बना सकते हो और यू कैन डिसाइड योर कोर्स ऑफ एक्शन इन द डेज टू कम। सो द क्वेश्चन, इज रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया आउट टू किल द अर्बन कोऑपरेटिव बैंकिंग सेक्टर? द आंसर इज नो. द आंसर इज yes. When I say no and when I say yes, it boils down to your perception about your bank and the industry as you see. I say Reserve Bank of India is not out to kill the urban cooperative banking sector, principally because I had been saying on number of occasions that the Reserve Bank of India is the risk manager of the country, and therefore as a risk manager it has to do a lot of things, lot of dirty decisions it has to take, and when it tries to take the dirty decisions, we feel affected, we feel bothered, in the sense that what the Reserve Bank of India is doing and is not favorable to the industry. दोस्तों, मेरा ये कहना है कि आप पिछले 10 साल का मुआयना कीजिए. Just track the history of your own institution and your own bank for the last 10 years, maybe from 2001 onwards. Now when I say you have to go back to 12-13 years or 20 years back, I find that Reserve Bank of India was very lenient. And lenient in the sense, in terms of regulatory compliances, Reserve Bank of India was, yes, warning you, censuring you, आपके ऊपर वो चिल्लाते थे. लेकिन रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया कभी डीप एंड, जिसको हम कहते हैं ना कि भाई पॉइंट ऑफ नो रिटर्न पे रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया नहीं जाती थी. पिछले 2-3 साल में जब से ये BR एक्ट अमेंड हो गया है, उसके बाद में सबसे पहली चीज़ हम सबको समझनी चाहिए, जो मैं बार बार कहता हूँ, ये है कि बैंकिंग के बारे में तुम्हारा जो स्टेट कोऑपरेटिव लॉ है या फिर मल्टी स्टेट कोऑपरेटिव लॉ है, उसके कोई मायने नहीं लगते. उसमें कुछ भी लिखा हो, आप उसको कंप्लाई मत करो. कंप्लाई मत करो का मेरा कहने का मतलब ये है, जो भी बैंकिंग के बारे में लिखा हो उसके ऊपर ध्यान मत दो, क्योंकि बैंकिंग के बारे में सिर्फ रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया ही आपको गाइड कर सकती है. ये पहली बात. जिस दिन आप सोचते हैं कि रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया is my only father, is my only patron, is my only godfather, then things become easier. And when people discuss that is the Reserve Bank of India out to kill, presuppose the question that the person who is talking like this is in deep shit. When he is in deep shit, he gets such kind of feelings. क्योंकि क्या हो गया है, उनका NPA बढ़ गया है, उनका CRAR कम हो गया है, उनके प्रॉफिट्स नहीं हो रहे हैं, वो लॉसेस में जा रहे हैं, या वो साफ में गए हैं. मैंने बीच में एक वीडियो बनाया था कि सुपरवाइजरी एक्शन फ्रेमवर्क में जाना यानी बैंक का जनरल वार्ड में से ICU में जाने जैसा है. Now when I say this, I simply indicate SAF is a modality to take corrective action. What is this corrective action, and this corrective action, why this corrective action is needed or required? You are not using your money, you are using public money, and whenever public money is being used by you for the purpose of creating economic activity, there are regulations. You are not the owner of money, the owner of money is somebody else. And when somebody else is the owner, you have to be careful, you have to be compliant. All the regulatory norms which are being given are required to be complied is what I believe. Now this being the story, I am going to continue this talk after a brief break here only, because I have people calling me outside to move out. I'll share what are the things which you must consider to identify the answer for the question, is Reserve Bank of India killing the urban cooperative banking sector? Here is the continuation of that. Thank you. So we'll continue with what I was talking. I am at a beautiful skywalk near city of Killing in Sikkim, and you will get little bit disturbances because a lot of people are crowding the area. This skywalk was inaugurated by our Prime Minister Narendra Modi few years ago. It's a beautiful place in Killing. Continuing the topic which I was talking to you, whether the Reserve Bank of India is trying to kill the urban cooperative banks, and I was saying that you should look to the a decade behind and see how the things have changed. One of the most important thing that I notice is that the change, not only we have to observe ourselves, but then the Reserve Bank of India also has to observe the change that has taken place. Many times it is being said that the Reserve Bank of India is out of touch with the ground realities, and that is apparently found to be true in number of its regulations where the ground reality has been not considered by them. To quote an example, the issue of expert committee recommendations, they were ignored, where Jyotirndra Mehta gave negative comments on a couple of issues, and then several circulars which have been issued by Reserve Bank of India in the past 2 years or so have created a story which says that all is not well with the regulatory system that is functioning, because Reserve Bank of India is still working on how to implement the Banking Regulation Act. Having said that, the feeling that the Reserve Bank of India is killing urban cooperative banks is improper for the simple reason that the regulatory stances which the Reserve Bank of India has changed out of the context of the situation that has been unfolding due to the BR Act amendment. We are not in sync with these amendments. We still continue to carry our previous formation of our views about how to run the bank. That has now changed. All your banking activities have now come into the BR Act provisioning, which says that it is necessary that you follow the rule of the game. And here, why people say that Reserve Bank of India is trying to kill the urban cooperative banks, one of the biggest argument that I would like to place before you is the recent guidelines on concentration risk. The circular is fantastic, no two opinions about it. The circular has been brought simply because the cooperative principles on the basis of which we were functioning for last couple of decades, we were forgetting that principle. We are supposed to help the small man, small people, but then we were going big, and that's where Reserve Bank of India wanted that the original cooperative principles on the basis of which these banks were formed they should go back to that particular true spirit of cooperation. Somehow that reverse migration is taking its toll. And the first major toll which forces people to conclude that Reserve Bank of India is killing the bank via killing the growth is that concentration risk circular, which says that 50% of your portfolio should be less 0.20% of your tier 1 capital. That's where your growth is stifled. Doesn't mind, I mean, absolutely no issues. Maybe you will be stagnant for a couple of years, say maybe to 2024, 2025. Thereafter, growth will take off, because banking has still not penetrated in India, and that's where the cooperative bank's role is becoming very crucial, and that is the acknowledgement in the expert committee's report where they evaluated the urban cooperative banking sector, and you will find several statements there. Now, here is the anomaly of thinking process. What is the anomaly? By implementing concentration risk circular, we feel that the growth has been stifled. It is otherwise. It is simply to bring the urban cooperative banks on the track of cooperation, and that's where that regulation has come into place. I'll continue with this argument because rains have come on the skywalk and I may not be able to continue to shoot, but we'll be shooting it and sharing the same with you. Thank you for watching. Continuing our earlier discussion about whether Reserve Bank of India is killing urban cooperative banks, I am at a village named Rimbi, which is Orange Garden City, and a small river with the same name, Rimbi. A lot of crowd and a lot of humming sound of river flowing you will get in this video. We'll continue with our earlier discussion for the simple reason I'm going to make this video in pieces where I can show you the beauty of Sikkim as well. So when I said that the regulation has changed, BR Act has changed everything, in continuation of that there are a couple of things which we must understand and we must realize is that the Reserve Bank of India has made now controls tighter. I mean, a couple of days ago there was a news in the Economic Times which said that Reserve Bank of India is tightening the screws about classifying the non-performing accounts online on a system basis, and if the bank is not doing it, then they are going to levy penalties. I mean, those are the directives of Reserve Bank of India. Now all these regulations, which include the provision of a board of management, the cyber security norms, the CEO's tenure, the director's tenure, and several things which have been incorporated in the revised guidelines, which make us feel that Reserve Bank of India is virtually tightening the screws of the sector. And you will find that couple of news channels or the couple of English business news or websites carry all black stories about the urban cooperative banks and how Reserve Bank of India is tightening its screws across the sector. That's not the story in reality. What is the story in reality? What we were doing a couple of years ago is now not required to be done. For example, if I look at the board of directors and its functions, I find that for the first time the do's and don't for the directors, on which I have made a separate video, clearly states what the director should not be doing. Now if you continue to do that, you are doomed. You are not likely to get support from anywhere. Now if someone says that the Reserve Bank of India is killing the urban cooperative banking sector, my simple question is, why it will kill you? It will kill you simply because you are not complying with the laws. If you are compliant and following all the rules of the games, Reserve Bank has got several businesses to do. They don't have time to kill you. You yourself are entering into a situation where you create opportunities for Reserve Bank of India to use the stick against you. If you find the developments recently which are happening is that based on the inspection reports of 2018 and 19, Reserve Bank of India is levying penalties now. I presume that all ill deeds or misdeeds or mistakes, whatever that have been committed by the urban cooperative banks up to the year 2019, they have been adequately punished, and probably the period will now shift to 2020 and 2021. Especially for 2020 and 2021, there were several aberrations as far as COVID was concerned. Because of COVID, several banks entered into certain areas of minor defaults. But then even those defaults, Reserve Bank of India is not going to consider softly. So that's what I feel. For a small error which you have committed, you will now be punished. And therefore, if you say that Reserve Bank of India is killing you, that is nothing but more than laughable about the whole story. Why I say this? गलती हम करेंगे, नियमों का पालन हम नहीं करेंगे, हमें जो लगता है वो करेंगे. हम लोग डायरेक्टर्स के रिश्तेदारों को लोन देते रहेंगे और उसमें जिस रिश्तेदार को लोन दिया है वो बोलेगा भी नहीं. डायरेक्टर्स लोन स्पॉन्सर करेंगे और ये कहेंगे कि ये हमारा बिजनेस है, दिस इज आवर बिजनेस, यू दिस कैन नॉट बी योर बिजनेस, you cannot sponsor a loan. And then if Reserve Bank of India catches you, you find that Reserve Bank of India is killing you. I heard recently one of the fantastic story from a learned director. What was the story? The section 10A, 10B, 10C of Banking Regulation Act about the directors are applicable only to the whole-time or full-time directors. I wonder from where this thought process comes up. Because if you are a director, all the provisions contained in the section 10A, 10B, 10C are applicable to you. And then for whole-time director, there are separate prescriptions. Because if you have a whole-time director, you need not have MD in your bank. ये हम सब गलतियाँ करते रहेंगे. बड़े बड़े बैंकों ने बोर्ड ऑफ मैनेजमेंट फॉर्मेलिटी के लिए रखा है. ऐसा मत करो. Because it is essential that you follow the law very sincerely. If you create a board of management, there is only one administrative layer that is created. Now once that administrative layer is smoothly introduced in the scheme of things which your bank is doing, I don't think that's the bottleneck. It is another story that the expert committee has recommended removal of the board of management once you have 51% directors who are professionally qualified as mentioned in the provisions of Banking Regulation Act. That being the story, it is extremely essential that we continue to be compliant. रिजर्व बैंक हमें किल करने के लिए रिजर्व बैंक को कोई दूसरा काम धंधा नहीं है, ऐसा नहीं है. मैं कंप्लाइंट नहीं करूँगा और मुझे अगर रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया पूछती है या मुझे वो तीखे सवाल पूछती है तो वो उसका काम कर रही है. सो रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया इज़ डूइंग इट्स जॉब. I am not doing my job properly. Whenever you are not doing the job properly, you get this feeling that Reserve Bank of India is killing me. Yes, the rules of the games have changed. Business has changed. With a change in business, change in the rule of games, you need to change the strategy. What is the strategy you should have which will not generate a feeling where you feel that Reserve Bank of India is killing you? Your actions will decide whether Reserve Bank of India is out there to kill you. You continue to default, you have a head on with Reserve Bank of India, and therefore what I feel is this. I'll continue this topic. At the same time, I'll give you additional input in the same video which will be linked together, and I'll show you the glimpses of beautiful Sikkim where I am today shooting this video. Keep watching. There will be a fourth part connected to this video itself. Thank you so much for watching. Continue to watch, please. Thank you. Friends, I am at the Sirkong Tulku Bird Park near Pelling. This is one of the park where there is virtually no sunlight and it's already shadowed with clouds. Hangover in the entire garden or entire park. In continuation of my talk about whether RBI wants to kill the urban cooperative banks, I will continue the topic and share with you my ideas. In fact, the ideas that have been bothering us on the basis of regulation that is coming up. But then there are positive sides to what is happening for the industry. Of course, a couple of ideas which Reserve Bank of India has recently introduced post BR Act amendment is about risk-based internal audit and then terms of the CEOs. Of course, terms of the directors they have not yet defined or finalized, but then there are several guidelines which are issued by Reserve Bank of India. These guidelines categorically indicate that you need to comply with various laws and various rules of the game. These ideas basically include lot of renovated regulatory guidelines which the urban cooperative banks need to conform to. In addition to that, the stricter guidelines for NPA classification. The moment you don't do that, you have issues, and those issues are required to be handled in a totally different way. You have to be systematically compliant. And then what is significant is how you are going to handle the online certification of NPAs, online classification of accounts, and now the next stage that has come is online SME classification plus online provisioning. Many of the softwares which are available in the market are not providing any online provisioning in their CBS software, and therefore it is necessary for us to be in tune with all these things. The bank which is not in tune with the changed realities are finding it difficult to survive and difficult to grow. Forget about the negative regulatory guidelines. Those are negative, but they are in the interest of the bank. But then there is a positive side which should give you a lot of hope as to how Reserve Bank of India is trying to improve the situation. For example, of course the expert committee report has not yet been accepted by the Reserve Bank of India, but then there is a hope that the Reserve Bank of India is justifying the categorization of urban cooperative banks into 4 categories. These four categories will give a totally different view as far as the future of the urban cooperative banks are concerned. And the future is there will be 4-tier banks in the country, and then these 4-tier banks in the country will have geographical limitations expanded as per their existing bylaws. So there would be Tier 1 bank which would be restricted to certain area, Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4. Of course, there is a size for this. If your bank is having a business mix of beyond 10,000 crores, you will be in Tier 4. There will be stricter regulation like commercial banks. The problem will be for the banks in Tier 2 and Tier 3. They are neither small, neither big. They are going to find it difficult to survive unless they understand the regulation and they try to improve upon their systems and procedures which they have adopted. Apart from this, there is an opportunity given to urban cooperative banks to convert into small finance bank. Overall, expert committee view is that the number of banks is required to be reduced. Here is the question, or here is the original talk which I referred to, whether RBI wants to kill the banks. Now here, you must realize that out of 1400 odd banks, almost 300 banks are in C and D category. Rest of the banks, almost 1100 banks are doing good. They may be in B, they may not be A, but then they don't have to fear the threat of getting killed. These 300 banks could be facing that threat, and there is this grapevine that goes around that RBI is hell-bent on killing the banks. No way. These 300 banks have dug their grave on the basis of their own making, and therefore it is necessary for us to remember that you are in C and D principally because you did certain things wrong. Maybe certain things were not in your control, therefore things were out of your control. But then there is a need to come out of that C category and D category. Of course, Reserve Bank of India will now possibly do away with this categorization, and they will migrate to risk categorization, low risk, high risk, or moderate risk, or whatever the 3 or 4 classifications are there. These classifications will ensure that you also survive and strategize in terms of what is required to be done. And therefore, to me, whether Reserve Bank of India is killing the urban cooperative banks or not, the idea is very simple. If you are complying with the regulations, nobody will come to kill you. But then if you are not complying and still having that frenzy thought of doing and interpreting certain things in a different way, will create difficulties. And therefore, it is extremely important for all of you to remember that if you comply, there is no issue for you. If you comply and follow the guidelines, I see no issue. I see no sense in this question whether Reserve Bank of India is killing you or not. What is significant is, as a banker, when you are dealing in people's money, it's extremely important that your decisions must be transparent, must be open. You should be absolutely complying with the laws and regulations which are being implemented by Reserve Bank of India. The moment you do that, the moment you take your bank towards that, I see no issue. This question should not bother you. So I would like to keep this question silent, or laid to rest this question. For the simple reason, there is no such thing that RBI is out in the open to kill you. There is nothing like this. Everything is on you. So if you are compliant, nobody is going to kill you. So ensure that you are perpetually compliant. Be a good banker, be a compliant banker, be a happy banker, and see to it that all the regulations you comply. I have posted almost 50-60 videos on YouTube on various critical topics. You can refer to them, ask me questions, send me mail, get my view, get my ideas free of cost. There is nothing for you. I mean, you don't have to pay anything. And in fact, I do this YouTube not for making money, but to ensure that the sector grows, sector survives, and sector remains healthy. This is my small contribution. If you like this video, please share it with your friends who are into the cooperative banking industry. Share it with the members of the board. Share it with everyone with the idea that we are going to be a strong bank and a compliant bank. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much.